I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comment. Do you have anything?
I do.
Okay.
Should I come up here?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Please. All right. May I sit?
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Knoll and fellow commissioners, Patrick and Michelle. I'll keep it under 5 minutes because I know that's my allotted time. I just wanted to come up and give you my perspective on your contemplation of selling our nursing home at Senior Village, and as a physician locally, and also having been a medical director of the other facility for over 30 years and been in both facilities, I think I have a unique perspective that I wanted to be sure and share with you as you consider this sale. And I just wanted to leave you with my comments. I think that you guys have been given a unique situation with this nursing home, and I know you've been evaluating it for several months and maybe even a year or two. I know that there was one round and you're back on round two again, and I know that it's moving, but I wanted you to at least consider my comments about this. I think that you're given a unique position to be servant leaders, where you have a chance to really continue to be servants and yet leaders to our voters in this district. Speaking as a physician, I know that we have this wave of baby boomers that are coming forward, and boy, they have all kinds of health problems, and I'm starting to see them with myself and with others. And I think it's an ongoing opportunity for that facility to operate at maximum efficiencies and function going forward for the next 20 to 30 years. And I hate to see us miss out on that. As far as additional pros and things I want you to think about is that really in our area, historically Senior Village, and again, I've been the medical director of other facilities, I think Senior Village provides the preeminent quality care in the area, in the county. And you're to be given a lot of the credit for that, gentlemen, because you make the final decisions on what happens up there. You've also had a great leader. You've had a great administrator. And I want to tell you that while she is a wonderful administrator and she has done great work, that there will be other administrators like her in the future, I believe, that will bring new energy and new enthusiasm for that facility. So I don't think you need to consider that it's one and done or whatever. I think you need to keep your eyes open to the possibilities of future leadership if and when that opportunity becomes a necessity. In addition to providing preeminent geriatric care, you also up at that facility provide palliative care and hospice care, whether you know it or not, end-of-life care for the same population. You guys do a fantastic job through Senior Village. You also serve as a rehab center through your skilled designation, which you got 3-4 years ago, and have done a good job with stroke, injury, fall, joint replacement, and so forth through the skilled designation, and you get better reimbursement. Again, Peggy House is to be given credit for that. You know, healthcare continues to evolve and change, but some things remain the same. Senior care is here, it's been here, it's here currently, and it's going to be here. It's going to be more of a market than ever before. And that leads me then to the comment then about the Harway Trust. This for me is what, looking at this as a constituent and as a physician, it's important. Now I understand that you can never draw down the funds on that trust, I know that, but with the amount of funds garnered by the trust, it does put you in a break-even and at times, I think, in any given year, a positive cash flow situation with that facility. And I don't know all the specifics, but I think that's something that you have to take into consideration. And I know that anywhere from, I don't know the exact draw that you take on it, but I've seen them, and somewhere between $120,000 to $200,000 a year on average per resident figures out to, and I did the math, is probably $200 to $300 extra per resident per month to provide care for them to get us over the top in a financial hardship time. And it's important that then going forward that you have the leadership and the care team present to make it a near capacity facility. And I think it's a good fit that you've had, that you can continue to enjoy and we can have into the future. I worry that if you outsource this, that will eventually, just like we lost Cray Manor, we'll be down to one care facility, and heaven forbid, if we would have to go out of town for senior care, to go to a nursing home to see our loved ones, or for people to come and see us, for example, if and when we end up in a facility like that. To have to go out of the county would just be, I think, egregious. And I'm not saying anything's going to happen to Medical Lodge, but things change, things happen, and I hate to see us lose one more presence in our healthcare community in Atchison. So with all of those things in mind, the last thing I'll say is I know that you bear liability. I've been in the liability profession most of my career. I mean, all my career. And it's just something that goes with the territory. I know that you have protection through insurance that's purchased, just like myself. And, that's the one downside to it. And as long as you have adequate coverage, I don't think you should have to worry about sleeping at night or worried about, your own personal financial assets. I mean, that's why you have liability insurance. I know we carry plenty as physicians. And I just want you to understand that I would not let that deter me from doing what I think is your mission and as being servant leaders for the constituents of this county. One last thing is, this nursing home serves the entire county and folks from outside the county. I've had many patients from Donovan County, from Brown County, that are residents down here. So it's not a city of Atchison thing versus the rural area. It's for the entire area. And it's not just my district, which I feel I'm looking out for. It's for the entire Northeast Kansas area, because we have such a good reputation at this nursing home that people, we oftentimes, most of the time, have a waiting list to get in there. So I can appreciate your time. I know you're busy, and I think I just about hit my 5 minutes. So any questions for me as a physician or as a constituent in our county here in Atchison?
Couple comments. In addition to the Harwise Trust, there are other funds that are subsidizing the nursing home. So, I mean, it's not just that it's being offset. The good care can be maybe attributed to the subsidy more than being county owned. So I guess it wouldn't be so much what I would call our stewardship, but maybe the stewardship of the county tax dollar that has helped produce the good results. And I know that you have also credited Peggy House, the director, the director, with a lot of this, which I think is very true. And you know how difficult it is to hit a home run when you're getting a new director 2 times in a row. So do you remember in the years past when we had directors that weren't so successful at Senior Village?
Yes.
And
I worked with them.
Okay. So
I worked with, forgive me, I can't think of Greg's last name. Stewart. I worked with Greg, and I thought he did a reasonably good job for the tenure of time he was there. But
maybe even the more distant past, there was very tumultuous times. I had to have an assistant.
Chairman Noel, could I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
I know we're giving $10,000 for the Home for the Aged. What are the tax dollars that we expended?
We are paying for the property insurance, all of it.
No, actually, the nursing home is, Senior Village is paying all their insurance premiums.
All of their personal property, I believe, is through
All paid by the
K.S.A is paid.
All paid by the Senior Village. Look at their budget.
I don't
They
think
have
so.
the liability coverage is from Group 1, I believe is the name of the company.
K-Camp is
For
covering it.
facilities.
The K.S.A for general overall, like an umbrella policy.
Well, it'd be like your homeowner's policy.
So what else are they paying? They're not paying.
HR expense.
I spoke to the HR department, and I asked them if would their expenses go down if Senior Village wasn't operating, and they said no, they won't go down. They'd be the same. That's
Probably fully a third of the work as far as admitting insurance and everything is done by our HR department, and their expenses may not go down per se, but there's other work that they could be doing that they are not getting done.
Well, I understand the principle of opportunity cost, but payroll, the tabulation of time, overtime, premium pay is all tabulated at the Senior Village and sent to the Human Resource Department to cut the paycheck. So there is no additional expenses
Well,
that would already occur.
well, I do know that when we have enrollment for the health insurance policies, they even have to have a special meeting up there because all of the employees, a huge portion of our employees work there, and all of that, the enrollment with the insurance is all done through our HR
But this would
department.
be pretty minor, considering that we're getting $1.7 million since 2010 from Harvard.
Which is, I believe you said the other day it was a 400,000.
It's 1.7 million.
No, per year.
No, I didn't say that. Since 2010, there's been $1.7 million.
But there was a figure the other.
There was 1 year we had over 400,000.
I don't believe that's correct.
Mr. Chancellor, printed out, we got 327 in 1 year, but it's been running about 161.
Can you imagine having a business where someone was giving you as much as, I think Dr. Epley said, as much as $200 per patient per month? And that was based upon a much smaller figure.
That was based on $180,000.
That was based on
average.
$180,000.
I looked at the averages, and I thought 180 was average based on your
Yes,
census
You're right.
of 40 to 50
Okay,
residents.
so let's just say it's 180 average.
Mhm.
So it's $200 a month per patient. And that would go away.
I just don't see how we can maintain the quality if you outsource it to another entity with primarily the Harway trust money and whatever other trust money that I'm not aware of is available. I just don't know how they could run it with the same quality and the same excellence that I have seen in the last 10 years in that facility. I have been in at least 15 nursing homes in my career in depth, and I can only think of one other nursing home that's as good or better quality, and that's also here in Atchison, and that's the Dooley Center, and it's a little different situation. But as far as private nursing homes / run by county, I've been in one other that was run by a county also down southeast Kansas. In my knowledge, there's 5 or 6 of those in the state, last I checked. But it's not a common situation, and there's different variances on it too, how you define that. But it was not near to the quality that this is. And my only comment negative, other than the liability issue, is I wish you guys, if you hang on to it, I wish you put in new flooring throughout that facility because I don't like I think the carpeting
We
looks.
put in some flooring.
In the rooms.
The carpeting.
I'd love to see you put in like a vinyl wood like. It's real durable. It's good stuff and be a one-time expense. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. I just want you to maintain your involvement with it going forward. If you sell it, you sell it. I mean, that's why you're the commissioners. You have more knowledge of why you do these things than I do. But I wanted you to hear from myself as a physician, my involvement over the years as a local Atchison physician, what I've seen with the facility, and it's at a very good place. And I worry that if you outsource it or sell it off, that it will decline because it won't have the financial base that you guys enjoy.
Another cost to taxpayers is the fact that it isn't taxed. So that is, you have to add that onto the backside.
And that's something I had not considered in my analysis.
Yes. So in order to make money, they've got to reduce their services to pay the taxes.
That's
Well, right now, we know we're getting 180,000, and I think we're another 20,000 more, so there's 200,000 they're gonna have to come up with just to break even.
just to get to where you are. You get to where the status quo is.
Just that. Yeah.
Plus property tax that
That's probably a couple hundred on that.
I have no idea, sir.
You know, we talk about economic development and it's key, but then on the flip side, you can look at it. With the county running it, with no property tax and some of the stuff we have, how much of that is a disadvantage to the nursing homes we have in town now that are doing all that? And would they grow if the county didn't have that? So you never know.
Yeah, I think most of the retail business would grow if we got rid of Walmart.
Walmart isn't county owned.
No, but when you take away a competitor, you're going to get the opportunity growth will build. It will all come to Atchison.
If I had a crystal ball and I knew if we sell it, and they would provide good service, it's a give me that the price is going to increase. They're going to have to cut, and I think they won't cut the CPNs. Now they're going to cut the upper, like the Peggy position. They may have one person. Bands they got 3 or 4 rarely close. There might be one person managing all that. I don't know.
It's an unknown, isn't it?
Pardon me?
It's an unknown.
That's very true.
Yeah, but just financial, if you look at it from a financial point of view, the only way to profit is to cut costs. And payroll is a big variable cost. And so are prices. You could increase prices. So,
As a physician, when I look at this, as you all are servant leaders as commissioners, this allows people to get excellent senior care, probably at a lower cost per unit than if you outsource it. Once you outsource it, the price is going to go up. It will bear more upon the private individuals, insurance, and the individuals to pay that cost. Or they'll be forced to go out of the county to other facilities that may charge less. And we have those not too far away, and I have patients that are down at Winchester and also out at Nortonville. So there's competition, and the market will settle out. And I'm not saying it's doom and gloom necessarily, but I worry that it will in the future could be that way, because we might have to all travel out of county to visit our loved ones or check on our loved ones because of how we progressed here. That's what I worry about.
I believe Peggy said at one time, and I think I'm right, we have a vast majority of Medicare, so you don't tell them what they pay, they tell you what they'll pay. So
The majority of
we've been as high as 60.
I was thinking she said like 80%.
now I think it's I could be wrong, Commissioner Pohl, but I think it's more in the 60% range, 60 to 70%. It ebbs and flows, and the rest is other insurance or private pay.
But you're right on the money about there is a waiting list. It is a very good facility.
There is no waiting list. I've just checked with Peggy here within the last 2 weeks. The only time she said there has been a couple of days when there has been a room that it's double occupancy and there's not an opening for a woman or a man, and that they have to shift things around or wait for an opening. But as far as a long time waiting list to get in, we're not at capacity.
Commissioner Pohl, Commissioner
No.
Eric, do you think the idea that we're out in the market trying to sell the facility would make people reluctant to put their parents in or to go there? I think they would if they don't know what's going to happen. So.
Yeah, that's possible.
Well, that's at least what Peggy told me.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time up there visiting with people last month or two. So I got a pretty good feel what goes on up there. It's pretty cool. So.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for your time. I just want to give you my comments, and I respect you gentlemen for the work that you do and for the decisions you're trying to make and for the betterment of the county. And I hope you'll keep my thoughts in consideration.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Okay. Did everybody have a chance to read the minutes from?
Public comment or something.
Oh,
You have a public comment there?
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, good.
I didn't see anything.
Okay.
Everybody have a chance to read the minutes from the previous meeting?
I have a discussion points, not the minutes.
Okay.
And I have the same discussion points, I guess, for the minutes. We've had some pretty robust conversations, particularly about selling the nursing home for the last 2 weeks. A conference call with a potential buyer the previous week, and then last week we had a robust, and it just says there was a discussion held. And to me, people who read the minutes should know that there's another way of observing it by making a comment. This discussion can be seen in its fullness on the refer to the website that we have, because unless we have a court stenographer, it's probably impossible to do that. But I think there still must be a reference to it, because there's quite a bit of it, just like the discussion we just had. I don't know what the minutes will reflect that. I think it's very difficult.
That's a pretty good point, just to have it put on there that if they want to view the you know, our minutes would be 50 pages long to be recorded. Thing said.
I have no
But
problem
they
with
could
that.
review the whole subject. Good.
So I make a motion to, when appropriate, to add to the minutes, more details available online to refer to the website. I make that motion.
Well, your official minutes are hers. By statute, she has to keep
That would be
a
the
set
only
of
thing.
minutes. But you could certainly say that there's a video available if somebody wanted to look at it. What's required by statute is that she record records and actions. So,
But the clerk's documentation is the
It's the official. It's the
official.
official.
That is the official
Because
record.
It's
10
official.
people could view a video and you may have.
That's why that's why this has to be the official record.
Yeah.
But I don't want to let people. I want people to realize that there's more detail. So I make a motion we do that as a matter of just when appropriate for the clerk to add it to the minutes.
Any legal problems or?
well, who's going to determine the appropriateness when it's appropriate?
I think you should have a statement on all the time. Or
Just
we
every
have
time.
the link to the video is right next to the link to the agenda on the website.
Could that just be part of the template that's stated at the end of every one of our
You could
minutes?
put something
We
on
have
our
a
web-
disclaimer on our
webpage, too.
unapproved minutes. We could put
Or refer to the link as for more detail, go there, and that would be, that way there wouldn't have to be a judgment call about as appropriate or how you worded it, and it would give everyone an opportunity to view more detail. We do have, I believe, on the template that when we approve the minutes that these are the official minutes, don't we? That is part of it, that was intended to. So it wouldn't be much different than that, having that part of the template. Should that be modified then if we want to just put it on instead of as appropriate as just have it on every minute?
Yes. Anytime we have a discussion.
I think
so
we
every
can
minute,
do it on every week.
Okay. You want to second it, or?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Did we discuss, so as of today, that'll be put on there?
So with that, I would make a motion to untable the minutes from
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. I'd make a motion to table those minutes.
To untable and
And
approve them.
Well, they get to table them, then have a motion
Okay.
to approve them.
Okay. To untable, I'll second that. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Now do you want a
Yes,
motion
I'll make a
to
motion to approve the minutes 2 weeks ago.
second?
I thought we just voted.
No, we
No, we
just
just voted to take
off
off the
the table. So I'll second that.
Aye.
Aye. I'll approve.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the minutes
Last week,
last week.
the 31st.
Now do we have, need a motion for, oh, you made that, I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the minutes of Tuesday, July 31st. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Okay.
Passed
and
3-0.
We did an awful lot of approving of minutes. You got that all straight?
Okay. Commissioner comments and committee reports. Jack, do you have any? I don't either. Okay, department budget hearings at 1:30, so.
I had a question on that. I noticed on the EMS, their percentage for professional services went up 4.7%. And I thought we all agreed on 2% cost of living and 2% merit. Where did that other 7/10 come from?
Is that on?
I don't think the details there.
No, I don't have any details. Do you have the detailed version?
Jamie's gonna bring that to me. She was printing it.
Okay, it's being printed. That, was there an extra hire in there for the,
I don't recall.
was there any?
I don't remember.
I don't either.
He mentioned about increasing the paramedics, and we all kind of agreed that salaries status quo with the 2 and the 2 because they took a sizable increase when the county took that
Well,
over.
as a board of, as a governing body, we're gonna approve all raises, what I heard. So we still have the control.
Now, I don't know if this was brought up on your ambulance advisory board.
We haven't had one since,
But I did notice that everybody else was 4 and there was 4.7, but I don't recall a new hire.
any other old or unfinished business? Pat, do you have anything, county council updates?
That's probably what we should have discussed, new business about this, but we done discussed it, so.
Okay. Anything from the crowd until another 3 minutes here?
When's lunch?
It was quick.
I got a feeling there's gonna be over 3 minutes, so. You got anything? No county council updates?
Okay. So here, wait for the hearing.
Well, I might ask a question, Pat. Do you have an idea approximately when we might have a tax sale?
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
The figures.
This is different with the track.
That's what's shown in what's filed with the court. And I've not asked Michelle to verify those numbers to make sure.
Jamie,
Because of the election.
I noticed in the ambulance,
That's what's been.
personal service, when that 4.7, was there an extra hire? Because we went 2 COLA and 2 merit.
I don't.
And I don't
Walk
recall
up
if we
and
had
say,
an extra
I've already seen it.
hire person or not, but I did notice that on that 4.7 personal service.
I don't think so. It's really good.
Thank you. So we probably need that clarification on that.
Well, again, if we'd have to, if it was approved, we still have the authority to.
Change it later on.
Yeah,
after.
yeah, we can,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, we either did something in the county or we did something in the city, and Mary's going to talk about it.
Just come by and say hi, Bill.
I don't know. Did you guys approve your budget last night or not?
15th of August at 5:30, we will approve your budget. August 15th.
Well, you're going right.
So that's not the public hearing.
That is
That's the public hearing.
Okay.
Public hearing.
So you published already.
We did publish it.
And you got 10 days, so you'll make it right at the 20th. You usually make us feel bad. Now we're making you guys feel bad because we got approved, or we're about to. We had a timeline. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but we started a lot earlier this year. You still got some of the tail end, but I think it made life a lot easier for you with going by the timeline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got started earlier. So it's 1:30, and I'll call the budget hearing to order. Okay. What do we need to? You want to address any questions on the published budget from the crowd, or? Sure. Come forward, please.
Come on, the chair up here.
All right, I'll come into the hot seat. I have met some of you gentlemen, Joe Warren with the city, New Finance,
Okay.
Director of Administrative Services and Finance calls over me as well.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. I kind of came just to kind of open some more communication. I feel like there might have been some things lost in translation at some point. I know last night the joint communications went in front of the city commissioners and they did not approve it because they felt they didn't have enough of the information that they needed. Yesterday morning, I got some more information on the solid waste, and I still think there were a few things that the commissioners were hoping to see, so that way they can go ahead and approve that those two portions of the budget from our perspective. And I'm coming on the tail end of this, so anything that's happened prior to now, I'm just kind of trying to get caught up on that side of it. But again, I'm here as on a communications basis. I'm trying to open more lines than we already have. And so I just wanted to see if how we can work together on getting some of that information and what I need to do to make that happen. I guess that's kind of why I'm coming up here to.
What has been requested and not received?
Well, I mean, just a little bit more information on fund balances. Some hit. I feel like I'm not saying that something was requested and not necessarily received. I think there might have been some miscommunication. And when I say miscommunication, there was some email correspondence that went back and forth about, we're asking for this level of detail like we provide for our commissioners, and I'm not sure that was, specifically what specifics included in that they're hoping to see that we didn't receive. And that's why I'm here. And so, things like, more like a 3-year history of including 18 budget to go with the 18 revised, things like CIP information, stuff on other expenditures and revenues, not just that anything that could be related to joint communications or solid waste, not just specifically from that fund, just so we can kind of get an overall snapshot. And I say we, I mean the city manager's office and the city commissioners can get an overall snapshot of where y'all are sitting and what the exact need is. And then there was a lot of numbers published, but there was really no communication as to what necessarily that was going toward, at least for the commissioners to review. And so they're just looking for a little bit more detail, I guess, is what we're hoping for.
Were any of these requests directed to the respective joint communications and solid waste boards?
Well, that's a good question. I know that during the joint city-county meeting that it was kind of discussed, and there was an email request made back in early July. But again, I'm trying to make sure that if there's been miscommunication, that we try to open that up now. That's where I'm not here in an adversarial role. I'm here just to try and smooth the track so we can get back on track.
Commissioner, if I could give a little information on the Joint Communications Center board. I can tell you that the only thing that's holding the city back there is that I can tell you that we have computers, of course, in the Sheriff's Department, the Police Department, and in the Comm Center. There's always been discussion with the board over the years of who replaces or who funds the replacement of computers. The last computers that the Police Department bought were actually paid for through the Joint Communications Center. I submitted to my city manager that for 2019 budget new computers that are actually 2 years over to needing replaced. That generated a conversation or discussion at City Hall about whether or not the communication center was going to fund the replacement of those computers. After discussions, and the board has never agreed to do that, but there has been, I think, I know there's been some discussion with the communication center director about whether or not that can be funded. I think that's the only holdup on the joint communication side, not the solid waste, but the joint communication side, and whether or not those computers could be funded by the communication center.
How can the county commission react to something that's never been a request?
That's right. You got a very good point. And so what has happened is as I say, I didn't even anticipate that we would try to go that way. I approached it from what we call ERP in the city request to fund them through the city when it generated this discussion. I think many in those discussions, including the director, thought, it is appropriate. It is a communication device, much as our radios were paid for and other things that we do in the comm center. It's whether or not you and the city would approve it that way. But it was never in the budget that was presented to you that you would have seen from the communications center. Now, what Kim did tell me in a discussion last week is she has what I think you guys often refer to as Fund 152. It's called transfers on the budget. It actually funds a number of things. She said it actually, and I can tell you that the computers that we need, the estimated price is going to be about $30,800. That it actually could be funded through what you have seen in the proposed budget in front of you of this so-called transfers fund or 152 fund. And then if she were to run short in 19, she probably would try to come to you for an amended budget. The point I'm making is that, no, you have not seen it, because it's been a discussion that came about after that communication center budget was formulated. However, she has said that it probably can be funded through what you have seen on there, as long as you approve that purchase when the time comes.
Mike, can I make a comment? I'm on the solid waste. That's solid waste. I'm on that too. I'm both. Joint communications. We had a meeting. There was some discussion about the future of both computers and
That's right.
IT.
That's right.
As part of a communication package.
That's right.
But as far as the actual action by the committee, that was never brought up as part of the action point.
That's true.
Just a discussion.
And
we approved that budget at the that meeting, and then we presented it to the city county meeting on May 31st. Since then, I'm not aware of any request for computer.
Commissioner, you're describing that correctly. Again, even myself have always assumed that the next computers that we replaced, which we're up for now, was going to have to be done through my city budget. But when I made the request for 19, which is since those meetings you're discussing, it's been brought up that the city is now saying or asking or requesting that those computers be replaced through the Joint Communications Center. It's a late thought, but that's kind of the hang up or the discussion that wanted to be a final decision one way or the other before the city approved the Joint Communications / solid waste.
Well, this comes from, again, I think there was a breakdown of communications is what it comes down to. I mean, really, there were some requests for information in early July, and then, Becky had to follow up and barely got some of that information on this past Friday, and the rest of it, I got an email yesterday morning with finally with some solid waste numbers, so we weren't even able to look at those and get those in a preparable package for the commission. And again, wanting some of this information is we're hoping to have that dialogue to where we can ask for information. You guys can, or if you guys need information, we need information, we can just have that steady flow, and there's not an issue. And so that was where that frustration came from. But again, we're not saying that you guys have this in front of you with it for the computer, but we're saying the communication is where I'm just trying to open that door a little bit more.
Well, I think if you're talking about communications, you better get a mirror and look at yourself, because it's all come from down the hill. Everything that you requested, you were given all that information. So it's not on our part.
Well, I'm not
we
sure.
give everything that you asked for.
Yeah, again, I wasn't part of that discussion, but from my understanding, that there's some information that we haven't received yet, still to this day, and that's why we're here.
Mr. Baer sent you an email and said, "What information do you need?"
Yesterday morning, exactly.
You never returned it.
And
No, that's not what. I saw Joe yesterday morning and say, "What did you need?" And he asked me for these two things. I came up and had James send them to him. So,
yeah.
And I pointed out that anytime, hey, welcome to your new job. A little bit of baptism by fire here, Joe.
Yeah, it is. It's okay. It's okay.
I don't want to get into who did, who said.
And I'm not here to do that. I'm not here to say blame y'all for anything at this point. I'm just saying let's open this line of communication. That's all I'm asking.
So what are you asking us to do?
Okay, again, what I would like to present to the commissioners is some fund balances in addition to the information that was given. Some notes on what the increases, what they're for, what the reasoning behind it is, at least just to and it's not anything that we don't provide anyway in our budgets, and I don't think it's unusual for folks to provide. And then it just other expenditures and revenues that go toward communications and solid waste, so that way we can get a big snapshot of the whole picture and where we play that part. I say we, the partnership of us for the joint communications.
Well, then this would open up, if we start opening up maybe additional things to be funded with the joint communications budget, is the city going to turn over more sales tax dollars? Because the county is currently putting in 100% of the sales tax money that they receive. Mm-hmm. So and to be fair, if we're going to fund city police computers, we would probably expect the same with the sheriff.
Right.
And so we start going down that road, and there would have to be an increase of that budget. It would have to come from the municipalities.
I understand how that works, and I mean obviously that's why I have the Joint Communications Board, is to hopefully to kind of decide what kind of stuff that money's going to go toward, that, we're both equally represented as far as the city and the county is concerned on that board. So, I mean, I would hope that that's the whole purpose of that board. We're just asking for information so we can say, here, commissioners, here's the whole big picture. I mean, it's all public information anyway in the long run. We're just, we'd like to have a view, a look at it so we can give it to the commissioners. They can say, yeah, let's approve it.
Is this information, Joe, related to the budget hearing today?
In a way it is. Just we thought that you guys would like to, understand that.
Are you making an objection to the budget? This is a budget hearing to see if there's any.
I understand. And
comments.
I don't know if it's a real objection because, that's probably too strong a word. It's just kind of a point of information because, just in case you didn't know, if you didn't see what happened at the city commission meeting last night, they did not approve the joint communications, so that part's still hanging out there. The joint communications.
It's supposed to be approved by the 15th of June.
Right, exactly, and I believe that, and that's why I'm here to get that information. But again, and yeah, it's somewhat related to the budget, and I understand that it's probably a little questionable as whether it belongs in this part of the hearing, but
I really have a problem with the timeliness of it.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I'm just here trying to open this
As a
line.
member of the public, are you making an objection to the budget?
I am personally not making an objection to the budget. No.
Do I hear any from anyone else?
Not necessarily an objection, I was just for
You
clarification.
had to come up with the camera. We want to see your pretty face. Here's the guy that shoots 78 on the
David
golf
Butler, City Commissioner.
Welcome.
And you gonna tell everybody on the camera that you shot 78 last Thursday?
No, I did not. That's a fleeting thing that'll never happen again. Last night we were told that basically the Joint Communications was asking for a $36,000 increase. Is that correct?
Yes.
It was whatever we presented on May 31st.
And I don't know what the solid waste was. So, from my standpoint, that's kind of what I was looking for, the raw numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what our staff was having trouble relating back to me, was how much it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know where the communications is at, but I'm looking at the raw numbers as you need $36,000 more than I gave you last year. And then solid waste, of course, I just joined it committee and I know it's got an excess. So does it need more, or is it going to be funded at the same? That helps us when we do our budget.
And the reason I brought it up today at this point is I thought it might be, behoove you folks to understand what happened or didn't happen with that part of the budget before you move forward with the approval of the budget as a whole. I didn't know how that would play into your decision or any of that.
Well, I think our resolution states that we're supposed to get together, present the budget. It should be approved by June 15th.
Yes.
And
That was our thing last night, was we were going to try to approve your budget, and then we had these questions. So we voted 3-2 not to approve it.
But
So
a lot of
that part of it is, we want to clear that up too, to make sure that we go through our part of the resolution and make sure that, matches up with your part of the resolution.
So is the reason you're here is because of not getting information or the new request for $30,000?
Combination of both.
But again, Commissioner, I would chime in that the board hasn't discussed this as a whole, this specific topic, but the director informed us that there is money probably in the budget that you have reviewed for the joint communication that would fund our computers. I think the question was, now, I assume individual purchases are brought to you every time? Like
anything over $2,500.
Okay, so see, it would be brought to you in whatever month in 19 to approve the purchase of $30,800 or thereabouts funds for police computers if you would approve them.
But they have to be under the budgeting authority.
And if it were funded through that Fund 152 or transfers, as it's referred to on there, the money is there. She thinks that there's enough funds in there to cover that cost. If you were in agreement philosophically that you should be approving computers for the police department, I think that's the real question.
I think I'd have to have a recommendation by the Joint Communications Board. And then also, what about the mirror image? Would affect if our sheriff's department would have requests? So if we were going to say double that, would the city go along with it if we were going to buy sheriff's department computers out of that?
I think that IT and computers is a bigger discussion. It may be a long discussion.
The comp center is paying for that now, the IT part.
Mm-hmm.
This is simply the hardware.
I understand that, but we have an IT department, you don't.
Well, we do. It's off-site.
It's
We have
just
an IT
contracted.
vendor that is funded through the comp center.
Okay.
This is simply the hardware. And to be frank, there's been this discussion in previous board, as you remember, Jack, where each entity was to pay for their own. Except the last time we got them, they did pay for ours. But there's an isolated explanation to the reason for that. But as a general rule, as the years passed, there was no agreement that the board would buy those or the comp center would buy those. And again, I repeat that I submitted a budget for 19, requesting them through the city budget, which generated this discussion we're having now. It's not the board. The board never had this discussion.
I think it's a lack of a policy of what they're going to pay for, and that would have to be developed by the Joint Communications or Solid Waste Boards, respectively.
That's a good point.
And I don't think that right now that I could say that, yes, I'm going to fund them without more documentation, policy.
Yeah.
This could be quite reaching out for a long time. How this is going to be funded may even affect the sales tax committee. We were going to meet next week on the 14th. On the sales tax committee, what the needs and everything are going to be if we're going to start taking in new territory, basically. How's that going to affect our vote of how it's going to be funded? Also, that money is a contingency fund that you're talking about that Kim said that could possibly be used. Well, if we're going to already earmark it for computers, we're reducing that contingency fund that was approved for emergency expenditures, whatever. We've already taken that down 30,000 before we even get there. So I don't know if I could.
Okay.
I don't think I could do that.
Chairman, no, I couldn't commit until I heard the recommendation of some of these committees.
I mean, there's so many different moving parts to this that
I would honor their decision.
If we don't approve it, how can you prove your budget when this is literally out there and you can't prove part of it without proving it?
My part is I'll probably have to budget it in and make sure that it's covered.
Yeah, so I mean,
And that's kind of where, like I say, I'd like to find out. And if you do approve it later on, then we'll have a little bit of extra on our contingency side. So,
Right.
I mean, if it comes out of the 1 cent sales tax.
Like lunchtime today, so I haven't had much time to understand it.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, the whole purpose was an open line of communication, give you guys the information that hopefully you guys need to make your decisions as far as what we've, what's been done on the city side, and hopefully.
We have a lot of moving parts up here, Joe. You're going to find that out because the treasurer has this responsibility, the clerk has this responsibility.
I absolutely understand.
And, working through that maze is even confusing for a commissioner. So
I understand.
Use one of us commissioners. I've told you specifically to use me, but any of the commissioners, if you've got any questions or need some communications, and we're here every Tuesday.
I would invite that both ways. One of my roles with the city is going to be, communications in general. So
I was going to go to the meeting last night, but I had an IT problem at home.
Understood.
So
I mean, I'm here. Let's open this line. I'm not here trying to say, blame anything on anything. I
think this could have been worked out in a timely fashion. We're right up against the budget.
We understand.
Well, as you said, you're so far ahead of the game now. You caught us a little off guard too.
Your new city manager is well aware that she asked for our schedule. Chairman Noel presented her schedule, so she knew what was going on. There's our schedule, taken to the wall.
I believe that was presented to her that night of the joint communications. Michelle, didn't you send it to her during the meeting? Because I followed up when she had asked for a budget calendar the next week, and she said yes, she'd emailed it.
Maybe we have a different reputation now.
Maybe.
So
then on solid waste, you're looking at an increase from the city again this year, or no increase? Do you know in your budget?
It's on the
that you're going
budget.
to approve today, I see.
don't even know if that has the detail.
And I'm assuming the 36,000 increase was correct.
And we have a substantial increase in sales tax collections.
I'd say that was 36,000 increase from our side. And I hope she's got that in the budget.
Yeah, it was presented last night. Yeah, absolutely, it was in there.
Well, I really firmly believe that this joint communications and solid waste budget should be approved at a joint meeting. And I think the next time we do it, we got to be prepared either to.
Well, however the resolution was presented, I mean, I think ours says that we should approve the budgets. But I'm not too sure what yours says.
By June 15th.
Right.
That's what the resolution says.
And your resolution also?
Yeah, it's joint resolution, right?
You want to make a comment? I couldn't tell, Jack. No.
Write it down, Jack didn't make a comment.
He was looking like this. I thought he was trying to get our attention.
Here. I don't find it in this detail.
Do you have any insight on that, or would you check Stacy? And I don't know.
Well, she's asking about, I think you're asking about. Oh, yes, about solid waste, solid waste.
Solid waste.
I'm on that board, but so long ago when we approved that, I just can't remember. It was approved by the board.
Does 31.5 sound right?
This isn't going to have the updated personnel services, although they were, the request was 4.373.
About the same.
So the 2019 request amount was 804,900. So I don't know, that's going to be close. 804,900. And your question was, it was, amount of change was 25,700.
For the total.
Of the total. And that was the request. So without the updated.
Reduced payroll services.
Yeah, which should be
7%.
reduced, if anything, because we went down to 2%, COLA at 2%.
Three tenths would be much.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm not finding it more detail on the publication, or maybe it's later because it's sales tax. Let me go on. Okay, solid waste. This should be, here's the final numbers. Total proposed for 2019 is 810,400. And current year estimate for 2018 was 779,200.
$3,000.
$31,200. Specific questions that, other than that?
Well, I mean, I did mention what we'd like to see is an overall snapshot of the health of the solid waste and joint communications, so we can say, okay, this is fine. You guys understand what I'm saying? So we can say, yeah, this is what we need to give you. Obviously.
Should we have another meeting?
I don't think. I mean, I'm not for less communication. I'm for more communication. So whatever we need to do to work it out, that's fine.
Well, isn't the respective boards a conduit to each respective commission board? And shouldn't they play a part in, if you're not seeing something at UNSC or vice versa, that we utilize these boards. And as far as I know, they haven't been contacted about the request for the computers at all.
I wouldn't know what the intent. I mean, on what the intention
And,
was.
true.
and I mean, we've got these mechanisms in place. I don't know if they're being utilized. And if there's a request from the city to the county for something and they're not seeing it, I think that they could definitely utilize those boards to, okay, shake the tree a little bit. We're not getting what we need, and vice versa. I mean, those people are representing our individual sides or our budget. We each put people on those committees for a reason. And I know
it's not our joint communication board or our solid waste board.
it's not
our.
Yeah, it's together, and
It is up in our budget.
yeah. So it's hard for us to kind of wrap our heads around something like the computer request, because we just learned about it this morning. Where it was only brought up once that I know of in any meeting. That was the last joint city-county meeting, and it was just, in the future, maybe we could use this or we could utilize that. And that's the only request I have ever heard of. It wasn't even a request. It was a mention of what we could in the future use our budgets, or the solid waste and joint communication budgets for. So
So is there a specific person that we should be our point person that we can contact when we need more information? I guess that's the first place to start.
The chair of the boards. The chair of the
So
joint.
if we need more information on the budgets for the joint communications for solid waste, we need to go to the chair of the boards to get that information.
Contact the director. They prepared the budget.
Yeah, director.
Well, we've gotten all those documents that she shared again last week, so there's never been a problem there. We've gotten all the documents.
As far as fund balances and that kind of thing, you get those from Jamie Madison is probably the most, more so than the clerk.
Commissioner, I think that you're.
I think Jamie's the one who sent them to you the other day, Joe.
you were saying?
I think you're absolutely right what you're describing. This computer issue, I think, is an afterthought. If the board, our board, had a policy or a discussion, I think if there had been a discussion that would have been favorable. If they had a policy that would be bought, and there wouldn't have been. I think the discussion has came about because the police department made a request for items that the city felt should be through comm center. So you're right. The timing is not to be blamed. The director was never presented. The board didn't discuss it. Nobody did anything wrong with that. She's given us all the documents that we've asked for as far as the budget. We've had discussions about how this could be funded. I think, I don't mean just on the solid waste side, but on the communication side, I think it's really what we're trying to ask you or communicate to you how you would feel about that. Should the board say, I think that the comm center should broaden what it purchases to include for both the county and the city, sheriff and police computers.
Are there no other avenues for revenue or expenditures other than Joint Communications Board? I mean, that's in this Joint Communications budget.
Joint communication has no revenue driven except this.
Sales tax. I understand that, but so there's no other revenues used for anything Joint Communications related.
Sorry,
Are there any other revenues used that are Joint Communications related besides the Joint Communication Fund?
911. Is that tax?
The 911.
911 tax.
See, this is the kind of stuff that I'm hoping that
Joint
we can
communication. I
open
mean,
this.
solid waste has other revenues.
And solid waste has other revenues as well. And so that's why I'm saying that's why I'm saying we need the bigger snapshot is to understand how what role this piece of the pie plays in the entire pie.
911 funds can only be used for dispatch related. It cannot be used for anything.
I understand that, and we're just going to get if we can get an overview of where the money is all going, specific in layman's terms, then that allows us to say put our stamp of approval, saying okay, this is a healthy use of the funds. That's ultimately what I believe the intention was for getting the city to approve that is that this is a healthy use of funds. So we'll approve it.
Was that a question about how much there was in the 911 fund? Or was that?
I'm saying this is the type of information we'd like to see to present to the commissioners. The overall pie.
County city man in the budget.
Yeah, that was part of the regular budget
For
process.
all the solid waste and the waste as well.
No, May 31st.
joint communications.
I don't know if that's.
See, and it's possible that we've gotten all this information in little bits and pieces. We just haven't been able to put it together in a palatable format, if that makes sense.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
We're ready to approve our budget today, and you're not. Is this something, because of the time, that we discuss it further and we don't do the computers right now, and are you that desperate you need them right now? Gonna go a year. Give us more time to discuss it.
Well, yeah, I think to answer you, that's the position we're in, yes, it could work a year. Again, from a technology standpoint, our IT recommends replacement every 3, it's been 5. In May or June, if we were using them, yes, we would survive. Yes. It's just time for a replacement. We just have to deal with those issues, yes. Life would go on.
Well, if we had more time off, this is really going to throw a damper because you thought you were getting close to resolving it with the sales tax committee. That's going to throw that for a loop.
Yeah, because if we are all of a sudden adding more to fund, of course that, again, the increased funding is going to have to be made up by the municipalities because the county is already paying 100% of what they receive. So any more monies that are having to be contributed will have to be contributed by the cities, both Atchison and the 4 others if they participate in the increase. So is the city ready to increase their contribution of sales tax dollars by $30,000 to compensate it? Then we would, if they were willing to do that, then it would be budget neutral.
Eric, it's a moot point because our budget is finished, unless we're going to do
Yes.
a budget amendment for $30,000, which I would say that would look, it's such a small amount, because I think Mike says, let's go back to the solid waste committee, let's have a discussion, let's come up with a resolution, and maybe it has to be 2020 on January 1st, I don't know.
Right.
And maybe it isn't going to get approved. I mean, I don't know those.
Even though that would come out of a contingency fund on the 911, it'll have to be replaced at some point, is my point. And at some point, with a higher budget being funded by the sales tax dollars, there'll have to be a bigger contribution by where it's not all being refunded to the county now. So there'll have to be a bigger contribution by the municipalities. And in the past, it's, hasn't been received very well that they contribute more. So,
But to my knowledge, we have never denied you which request.
Last year we requested $30,000 for radios. We were denied. Last August.
$30,000 more.
yes.
We were
You're
denied.
asking for $36,000 more this year.
We were denied.
We've got it in our budget for this year.
So, I mean, I feel like we're having 2 different conversations, kind of. I mean,
So they've asked if they've ever denied us, and I said, yes, you did last August.
I mean, even the whole computer discussion for the police department, and then there's the communications issue, and the fact that again, just the point of information that I brought for you guys about that still being out there hanging, which is why, again, why I'm here today, because it is budget related.
Okay. Is there anything further? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Yes, you too.
Any other recommendations or complaints or comments? Well, do I hear a motion to approve the proposed budget?
Do you close the public hearing first?
Oh, I'm sorry. Do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we need to, do I hear a motion to approve the budget for the county for 2019.
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion?
I'd like to have some discussion. I mean, I know this budgeting is a very tedious job and it works a lot of people, including our staff and the city sitting here, they have the same issues. And it's a very strenuous time to go through it, and we try to do the best we can for our citizens and for our taxpayers. And I got to give a comment to all our department heads and think that they work hard. I think they did a good job, and I think we should compliment them for that. But a budget is a guide. It gives budgeting authority. But just because you budget doesn't mean you have to spend it. And we're always going to be good stewards of all the money that we receive.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The budget is passed 3-0. Is the signature page in here, Michelle?
It should have been the very top page.
Hmm?
Very top.
It wasn't. I must have got mixed up.
Right.
It was never in the folder.
That one. Go back. Go back. Okay, no, I'm sorry. I can look through.
I never did see it. Is it this one?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is this the chairman signs or?
No, we all
I'll
signed
look
it.
at
Slightly different form than we've had before, isn't it?
It's just a large form. There's so much, there's so many. I'll need to test them. I'll need to sign that too. Thank you.
Is there anything else that you gentlemen would like to discuss? Not related?
Are we finished?
Looks like it.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Wait, I was going to ask if we had a any need for an executive session for anything. Okay, I just wanted to hadn't covered the base yet. We have to approve the bills yet. We can do that after we close. Did you have anything you wanted to say about the petition? That's the petition that was going around.
There's a petition from
Citizens on the sale of the record.
$250 signatures against the sale of the nursing home. Correct.
I didn't count.
Well, he's tabulated.
Oh, I didn't see that on the back.
Wow. So we can receive and file that, or?
It's been stamped as received.
That's a lot of signatures.
With that, if there's no further business, do I now hear a motion to
I
adjourn?
move that we adjourn at 2:11.
Can second it. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are now adjourned. Thank you.
Can you give us signatures on that?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you.